So you are sitting there, right, and you are staring at a decision.
Right.
Maybe it's a massive, life-altering choice like, I don't know, taking a totally new job across the country.
Oh, yeah. The big ones.
Exactly. Or, honestly, maybe it is just incredibly mundane, like whether or not to hit snooze on your alarm clock for the third time today.
I mean, we've all been there.
Right. But in that moment, you don't just feel indecisive, you feel literally torn.
Yeah, torn is the perfect word for it.
Because, like, one distinct voice in your head is saying, take the leap, this is exactly what we need. And then, clear as day, another entirely different voice just chimes in and goes, are you out of your mind? Stay right where you are. It's way too risky.
They get an argument.
It is. And we usually just brush this off as having mixed feelings, right?
Yeah.
We treat these internal voices like, I don't know, passing weather, temporary glitches in an otherwise smoothly running machine.
Yeah, we really do.
But what if those contradictory voices are actually permanent residents?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
Right. What if your mind is less like a single rational individual making executive decisions and more like a crowded, noisy, and highly dysfunctional family?
I mean, that completely upends how we typically think about ourselves.
It really does.
Because for centuries, the dominant view of the human mind was what you might call the monarch theory.
The monarch theory. Okay, break that down for me.
Well, we desperately want to believe that the self is a single, unified ruler, like sitting on a throne inside our heads, making rational choices.
Right, the king of the castle.
Exactly. But the reality of human psychology is radically different. The self is actually a chaotic household.
A chaotic household. I love that.
And what is truly fascinating here is that the most profound insights into this chaotic household, they didn't originate in a modern clinical study, you know?
Really?
No, or an fMRI machine. They actually came from novelists.
Wow. Okay, well, welcome to today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Today, we're exploring a fascinating psychological framework that's basically hidden in plain sight within classic fiction.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
We are looking at two monumental authors, Fyodor Dostoyevsky and William Faulkner.
Two of the absolute heavyweights.
Definitely. And we're looking at how they use the concept of a fractured family as a literal structural map of the divided human mind.
Long before modern psychology even gave us the clinical vocabulary for it.
Exactly. So we are diving deep into the brothers Karamazov and the Sound and the Fury.
Right.
And look, these aren't just stories about siblings who bicker.
Not at all.
These authors took the human soul, shattered it, and turned those jagged pieces into breathing character.
Shattering the soul. Yeah, breaking it apart is definitely the right way to visualize it.
So where do we even begin with this?
Well, we have to start by dismantling that deeply ingrained illusion of the unified ego.
The monarch we were talking about.
Exactly, because if you look back at, say, the Enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
The era of Descartes, and I think, therefore I am.
Oh yeah, classic philosophy 101.
Right. The prevailing intellectual current back then was that a human being is a singular rational actor.
We are one cohesive entity.
Yes. And, I mean, you can totally understand why we cling to that idea.
Oh, sure. It is comforting.
Extremely comforting. It implies control.
Like I'm actually driving the bus.
Exactly. But modern psychology categorically rejects this. We are actually a collection of competing drives, conflicting perspectives, and autonomous forces.
So like you have an ambitious part.
Right. And a terrified part, a deeply resentful part, a wildly optimistic part.
And literature simply got there first.
It really did. Writers realized that to capture the actual truth of human nature, they couldn't just have one character agonizing internally.
They need to externalize those internal contradictions into a literal family unit. But okay, I want to challenge that slightly.
Sure, go for it.
Why a family? Why couldn't Dostoevsky just write a deeply, painfully conflicted main character?
Whoa.
I'm looking at Hamlet.
Oh, Hamlet is a great example.
Hamlet is the absolute poster child for internal conflict.
Yeah.
He gives these massive soliloquies where he endlessly argues with himself.
To be or not to be, right.
Exactly. So why isn't that internal monologue enough?
Yeah.
Why go through the exhaustive, architectural trouble of inventing an entire household of brothers just to make a point about the mind?
That's a great question. Because an internal monologue, like Hamlet's, it remains trapped in the abstract.
Okay, what do you mean by abstract?
It is private. When a single character is conflicted, it is just a feeling.
Right.
But when you externalize those conflicting traits, when you isolate a person's pure, unchecked passion and build one actual brother out of it,
Okay, yeah.
and then you isolate their cold, calculating intellect and build another brother out of that, you make the invisible visible.
Ah, you bring it out into the real world.
Exactly. You allow those internal psychological conflicts to literally converse.
They can argue, they can manipulate each other.
They can physically interact in space. It is no longer just a feeling of being torn. It is a dramatized reality.
A dramatized reality.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you get to watch what actually happens when your reason and your passion sit across a dinner table and literally declare war on each other.
That makes so much sense. It
It
takes
is.
the abstract messiness of my own brain and just puts it on a stage where the mechanics are totally exposed.
Exactly.
And honestly, there is something incredibly liberating about framing the mind this way.
How so?
Well, think about it. We spend so much energy beating ourselves up for feeling divided.
Oh, absolutely. The guilt is real.
Like, you want to get in shape, but you also desperately want to stay on the couch.
Right.
You want to be vulnerable in a relationship, but then another part of you wants to build a 50-foot brick wall to avoid getting hurt.
Yep, the defense mechanisms kick in.
And we view that division as a massive personal failure. Why can't I just be consistent?
We think we're broken.
Exactly. But this framework suggests that feeling internally divided isn't a bug in the system. It is the operating system itself.
Spot on. You aren't failing at being a singular monarch. You are just experiencing the reality of being a complex household.
I love that.
It's powerful, right? It shifts the entire psychological goal.
How does the goal shift?
Well, if you believe you are supposed to be a monarch, your goal is to violently suppress all the dissenting voices.
Right, you just order them to shut up.
Exactly. But if you accept that you are a household, your goal shifts to management.
Management. Like, how do I get this noisy family to just cooperate?
Precisely. And that brings us perfectly to Fyodor Dostoyevsky.
Yes, let's dive into Dostoyevsky.
If we are looking for the ultimate map of our conscious philosophical divisions, the brothers Karamazov is the blueprint.
Okay, let's set the historical stage for the listener here. We are in 19th century Russia.
A very intense time and place.
Huge. It is an era of massive spiritual and philosophical ferment. Like, everything is up for debate: religion, politics, the fundamental nature of existence.
Everything is shifting.
Right. And Dostoevsky just drops the Karamazov family right into the center of this boiling pot.
He really does.
Now, to read this through our psychological lens, we have to look at the family collectively as a single organism.
Yeah, it's key.
We have to start at the top with the patriarch,
Yeah.
the father, Fyodor Pavlovich.
Oh, Fyodor. What a character.
I mean, he isn't just a terrible parent. He is the actual embodiment of chaos.
Total chaos.
He is entirely selfish, completely impulsive, and spiritually unformed.
Right. Psychologically speaking, he is the raw, undifferentiated material of the human psyche before it develops any moral structure or like a cohesive identity.
So he's just the messy starting point.
Exactly. Fyodor Pavlovich is pure, unrefined appetite. He has no center.
Just a black hole of wants.
Yep. And because he is centerless, he shatters. The suns emerge essentially as shards of a broken whole.
Shards. I like that visual.
Yeah, each sun carries one specific psychological function that was basically latent and tangled up within the chaotic father.
So Dostoevsky takes the mess of the unformed psyche and separates it out into 4 highly specialized modes of being.
Precisely.
So let's look at the shards. Let's break them down. First, there's Dmitri.
The passionate one.
Exactly. He is the embodiment of passion. He's impulse, emotion, driving energy.
He feels everything at an absolute maximum volume.
Volume 11, all the time. If he loves, it is violent. If he is angry, it is totally destructive.
He is the pure emotional drive that doesn't think about tomorrow at all.
Just completely in the moment. Then, standing in total opposition to Dmitri, you have Ivan.
Right, the intellect.
Ivan is reason. He's skepticism. He's the part of the mind that analyzes, deconstructs, and demands empirical proof for everything.
He is the one who sits back, observes the suffering of the world, and coldly declares that if there is no God, then everything is permitted.
Everything is permitted. It's absolute freezing rationality.
Cold as ice.
So we have passion and reason.
And caught right between them is Alyosha.
Alyosha.
Yeah, if Ivan is reason and Dmitri is passion, Alyosha is faith.
But we shouldn't view him just as blind religious dogma, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Alyosha represents the capacity for reconciliation.
Okay, reconciliation.
He is our spiritual intuition. He's the part of the soul that inherently seeks harmony, connection, and love.
So he's basically the psychological glue trying to hold these fragments together.
Exactly. He's the peacemaker. But then finally, there is the fourth brother.
Right, the illegitimate half-brother, Smerdyakov.
Smerdyakov. Psychologically, Smerdyakov is the shadow.
The shadow, that sounds ominous.
It is. He is nihilism. He's the dark, resentful, deeply destructive underbelly of the psyche that the rest of the family tries to just ignore.
So, looking at this structure, my mind immediately goes to a corporate boardroom.
Oh, okay. Let's hear this.
Think about it. The CEO, the father, is completely erratic, corrupt, and basically running the company into the ground with zero vision.
Okay, I see where you're going.
So the board members, the brothers, are literally screaming at each other, trying to seize the steering wheel.
Right.
Dmitri's the head of sales. He's running on pure adrenaline, screaming for massive, reckless expansion.
Spend all the money right now.
Exactly. Then Ivan is the chief financial officer. He's coldly proving mathematically why the company is totally doomed and why corporate loyalty is a joke.
He's got the spreadsheets to prove it.
Right. And then Alyosha is human resources. He's desperately trying to get people to just breathe and find a healthy company culture.
Poor Alyosha.
And Smerdyakov, he is the disgruntled IT guy down in the basement, secretly unplugging the servers just to watch the building burn.
That boardroom analogy works so well because it captures the core dynamic here. The pursuit of authority.
They all want to be in charge.
Exactly. These brothers are functioning as competing voices within a single consciousness, and every single one is trying to be the CEO.
It isn't just a family squabble over inheritance money.
No, it is a dramatized interior dialogue. Like, Ivan's skepticism isn't just existing in a vacuum. It is actively attacking Alyosha's faith.
And Dmitri's wild passions are actively undermining Ivan's careful rationalism.
Exactly. They're constantly fighting for absolute dominance over the human soul.
But, we have to be careful with the boardroom analogy.
Why is that?
Because in a company, someone can just quit or be fired.
Oh, that is a very good point.
In the mind, you cannot fire a part of yourself. They are locked in.
You're right. You can't just evict a piece of your psyche.
And that lock-in is where the real danger lies, which actually brings me to the dynamic between Ivan, the intellectual, and Smerdyakov, the nihilist shadow.
This is the darkest part of the whole framework.
This is the part that legitimately terrified me.
Oh, yeah.
Because Smerdyakov gives practical expression to the dark ideas that Ivan entertains, only theoretically.
It's so chilling.
Let's really drill down into the mechanics of this, because this isn't just a neat literary trick.
No, not at all.
This is a massive, flashing psychological warning about how our minds actually operate.
It is arguably Dostoyevsky's most profound insight.
I completely agree. So let's look at the internal mechanics.
Okay, so Ivan represents our high-level theoretical intellect. And look, we all have an Ivan.
Oh, definitely.
It is that voice that plays devil's advocate, the voice that strips away meaning and says, look, morality is just a social construct. Loyalty is a biological illusion. None of this actually matters.
Right. It's that totally cynical part of the brain.
Exactly. Now, for Ivan, for the pure intellect, this is just a game.
It's an abstract exercise.
Right. Ivan is sitting in a cafe drinking tea and debating philosophy.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually want to go out and murder anyone.
Right. The intellect feels safe because it's just thinking. It thinks there are absolutely no consequences to purely philosophical cynicism.
Exactly. It thinks it's harmless. But the intellect is not alone in the house.
It's not.
Down in the basement is Smerdyakov, the shadow. The reservoir of all our unacknowledged anger, our resentment, our utter selfishness.
It's waiting down there?
Yep. And when the intellect, Ivan repeatedly declares that nothing matters and all moral boundaries are fake, it is unknowingly dismantling the psychological security system.
It strips away the moral constraints.
Exactly. Smerdyakov listens to Ivan's grand theories through the floorboards and says, oh, so nothing matters, the rules are fake. Excellent. I will now act on that.
Wow.
The shadow takes the abstract permission granted by the intellect and turns it into concrete, brutal action.
So Ivan leads the front door wide open, goes to sleep, and Smerdyakov walks out and commits the crime.
Yes,
Right.
that is exactly what happens. And psychologically, this explains so much about human self-sabotage.
Oh, I can totally see that. How does that look in everyday life?
Well, think about it. If we allow our hyper-rational, cynical thoughts to completely dominate our internal narrative.
But constantly telling ourselves that everyone is inherently selfish.
Right. Or that relationships are purely transactional.
Yeah.
Or that trying hard at your job is pointless because the system is rigged.
Right.
If we do that, we are feeding our darkest impulses. We give our internal Smerdyakov absolute permission to act out.
Because we've already justified it intellectually.
Exactly. We suddenly find ourselves sabotaging our careers, or being incredibly cruel to a partner, or acting out in really destructive ways.
But all while our internal Ivan sits back and says, well, logically, I can justify why I did that. They deserved it.
Yep. The intellect literally creates the alibi for the shadow's crime.
That is genuinely chilling.
It really is.
It perfectly illustrates what happens when the parts of the mind are forced into the same room, and one of them tries to assert total dominance without understanding the consequences.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
So the Karamazovs basically map out the conscious philosophical arguments we have with ourselves.
Right. The realm of ideas.
But the framework pivots entirely when we look at William Faulkner and the American South.
It's a completely different approach.
If Dostoyevsky maps the conscious debates, Faulkner maps the structural subconscious fracturing of how we literally perceive reality.
It is a profound shift. I mean, moving from the brothers Karamazov to the sound and the fury is moving from the realm of ideas directly into the raw mechanics of perception.
So let's talk about the context for Faulkner, because the historical context here is crucial.
Very much so.
Faulkner's writing about the decline of the American South following the Civil War.
Right.
It is a society grappling with profound trauma, massive loss of identity, and the total collapse of a grand, albeit deeply flawed mythos.
The whole foundation has crumbled.
And the Compson family is essentially rotting from the inside out.
They're falling apart.
But Faulkner doesn't use Dostoevsky's philosophical framework at all, does he?
No, not at all. The Compson brothers aren't sitting around a table debating the existence of God.
Right.
Faulkner's divisions are entirely structural. He fragments the mind through radically different modes of processing time and experience.
He immerses us in entirely different consciousness.
It's a totally disorienting reading experience.
Let's look at the Compson siblings, because the way they process reality is staggering.
Let's do it.
First, we have Benji. Benji experiences reality purely through sensation and association.
Sensation and association, right.
He has a severe cognitive disability, and because of this, he does not process time linearly. He has no concept of past, present, or future.
It's all happening right now for him.
Exactly. If he smells a specific flower right now, the scent instantly bypasses all logical thought and pulls him entirely into a memory from 20 years ago.
And he experiences that memory as if it is happening right this very second.
Yes. He is pure, unmediated sensation.
It is a brilliant depiction of how the mind processes trauma.
Oh, trauma. Tell me more about that connection.
Well, trauma doesn't live in the intellect, right? It lives in the body. It lives in the sensory apparatus.
Oh, that makes so much sense, like a trigger.
Exactly. Benji is the part of the psyche that cannot conceptualize the trauma, but only endlessly feels it over and over.
Wow. Okay, so that's Benji. Then you have Quentin.
Quentin is a totally different nightmare.
If Benji is lost in timeless sensation, Quentin is entirely suffocated by memory and obsession.
He is paralyzed by the past.
Totally paralyzed. He is obsessed with his family's lost honor, obsessed with a history that is already completely dead.
He can't let it go.
Quentin is the part of the mind that literally cannot move forward because it is endlessly trying to rewrite what happened yesterday.
It's a tragic loop.
And then, swinging the pendulum in the complete opposite direction, is Jason.
Ah, Jace.
Jason aggressively, toxically lives in the present and the future. But his entire perception is warped by resentment and control.
He operates purely on grievance.
Yes, he trusts absolutely no one. He views every single interaction as a transaction where someone is actively trying to cheat him.
He is the voice of cold, hard, cynical pragmatism. He wants to dominate every situation just to ensure he never gets hurt again.
So right there, you have a mind structurally shattered by how it experiences time.
It's broken into pieces.
Benji is drowning in timeless sensation. Quentin is trapped in a dead past, and Jason is locked in an antagonistic, paranoid present.
And Faulkner's genius here is that the structure of the novel itself literally forces the reader to experience this fragmentation.
How so?
Well, when you read Benji's section, the text is intentionally disorienting. Like, time jumps back and forth mid-sentence without any warning.
You are literally inside a mind of pure sensation.
Exactly. Then when you read Quentin, the sentences become obsessive, circular, constantly looping back on themselves.
So your feeling is obsession.
Yeah, you are wearing glasses with completely different, totally distorted lenses depending on which brother's mind you are inhabiting.
That is wild.
If Dostoyevsky shows us a debate, Faulkner forces us to feel what it is like to be inside a mind that is fundamentally broken at the perceptual level.
But this leads to the most devastating part of the entire framework. The fourth sibling, Caddy.
Caddy, yes. This is crucial.
Caddy is the only one who possesses actual vitality.
Yeah.
She embodies desire, spontaneity, and lived experience.
She is the life force of the family.
Yet Faulkner doesn't even give her a chapter. She doesn't have a narrative voice in the book.
Not a single one.
She is deemed unacceptable by the family structure and is totally cast out. She is completely exiled.
It's heartbreaking.
I really want to spend some time here. What happens to the mechanics of the soul when vitality and lived experience are actively silenced and thrown out?
That is the core tragedy of the Compsons. Caddy is the only member of the family who actually engages with the messy reality of being alive.
She loves, she makes mistakes, she actually feels desire.
Right. But the family who are totally obsessed with their rigid ideas of honor and control, they cannot handle her vitality.
It's too chaotic for them.
Exactly. So they expel her. Now, map that back to the individual psyche.
Okay, let's do that.
If your mind exiles its own life force, if you decide that feeling joy, experiencing spontaneous desire, or being vulnerable is simply too dangerous or too messy.
You cast out your inner Caddy.
You do. You exile the best part of yourself.
But the remaining parts don't just go back to normal, right? The text suggests they just orbit around her absence.
Exactly. When you exile the core of your vitality, the remaining parts of your psyche become hypertrophied.
Hypertrophied, like they swell up.
Yes, they swell up and become monstrous because they have absolutely no counterbalance.
Ah, see.
Quentin's obsession with the past becomes fatal because he has no present joy to anchor him to the real world.
Right.
Jason's need for control becomes utterly toxic because there is no love or warmth left to soften his edges.
Wow. Without the center of actual lived experience, the other psychological functions just turn pathological.
They build their entire identities around the empty space where the life force used to be.
Let's bring this down to the everyday experience of the person listening right now.
Yeah, let's ground it.
Because this happens all the time. What happens when you let your inner Jason, your resentment, and your desperate need for control just take the steering wheel?
It ruins everything.
Right. You go to work, you interact with your family, and every single interaction is filtered through paranoia and grievance. You are constantly looking for how you are being slighted.
It's an awful way to live.
Or what happens when your inner Quentin runs the show.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy a vacation. You can't enjoy a nice dinner out because your mind is endlessly replaying a stupid failure from 5 years ago.
You're completely missing the present moment.
You are completely ignoring the actual present reality. You are ignoring your inner Caddy.
Yep.
You literally stop feeling the sun on your face. You stop actually connecting with the people sitting right across from you.
You become a ghost.
You build a prison out of your own memories or your own defense mechanisms,
Yeah.
and you lock yourself inside.
It is a terrifyingly common psychological trap. And honestly, this is where our deep dive transitions from literary intuition to hard science.
Oh, I love when the science backs up the art.
Because what Dostoyevsky and Faulkner intuited through the creation of art, psychology eventually mapped out through actual clinical observation.
So it's not just a metaphor.
Exactly. This idea of a divided, fractured self isn't just a clever metaphor for an English class. It is the fundamental architecture of human consciousness.
Let's dig into the science, because this is where the puzzle pieces really snap together.
Let's do it.
The framework explicitly points to Carl Jung.
A giant in the field.
Right. Jung didn't just say we have different moods. He described the psyche as a, quote, complex society of autonomous forces.
Autonomous forces, that's the key phrase.
He suggested that these parts of us have their own wills, their own distinct desires, and they act on us often without our conscious permission.
Just like the brothers.
Exactly. But what really blew my mind is the more contemporary clinical approach. internal family systems theory, or IFS.
IFS is huge right now.
The therapy literally uses the word family to describe the mind.
It really does. IFS is arguably the most direct, practical application of the very map that these novelists drew.
Break it down for us.
So it was developed by Dr. Richard Schwartz, and the core premise of internal family systems therapy is exactly what we have been discussing. Multiplicity is our default state.
Multiplicity, meaning we have multiple parts.
Right. Having multiple personalities, in this sense, isn't a pathology. It is literally how the mind is designed to operate.
Okay, so how does IFS categorize these parts?
Well, IFS categorizes these internal family members into very distinct roles. First, you have managers.
Managers.
These are the proactive parts that try to keep us safe and functional.
So they're trying to help.
They think they are. Your inner Jason Compson is a manager constantly trying to control the environment so you don't get hurt or cheated.
Right, trying to anticipate every disaster.
Exactly. Then, on the other hand, you have exiles.
Exiles, like Cat.
Exactly like Caddy. These are the parts that carry the pain, the trauma, and the extreme vulnerability. Caddy is the ultimate exile. We lock these parts away in the basement because the pain they carry is just too overwhelming to deal with.
Okay, so we have managers trying to control things and exiles locked in the basement holding the pain. But what happens when an exile threatens to break out of the basement? You get the third group, right? The firefighters.
Yes, the firefighters.
What's it do?
Firefighters are highly reactive parts. When a vulnerable exile gets triggered by something in the real world, say a breakup or a harsh comment from a boss, the firefighter rushes in to extinguish the pain by absolutely any means necessary.
By any means necessary.
Yes.
So this is where destructive behavior comes in.
Yes. This is where you see extreme behaviors, binge drinking, sudden bursts of rage, total dissociation, or, doom scrolling on your phone for 6 straight hours.
Wow.
The firefighter doesn't care about the collateral damage to your life. It doesn't care if you lose your job or ruin a relationship. It only cares about distracting you from the intense pain of the exile.
So if my mind is this complex society of managers trying to obsessively control things, exiles locked in the basement, and firefighters literally burning the house down just to save me from feeling pain.
It's a lot to manage.
How on earth do I get healthy? Like, what is the goal here? The framework is very specific about this. It states that psychological health does not depend on eliminating these competing elements, but on their integration.
Integration.
It's like hosting a dinner party. You invite your friends, but you realize you also have to invite your profound social anxiety, your deep-seated resentment, and your weird obsessive inner Quentin.
They're all on the guest list.
You can't bounce them at the door. You just have to figure out where they sit so they don't ruin the meal.
The dinner party analogy is good, but, and this is important, we have to recognize that some of these guests are incredibly disruptive.
Right. They're not just sitting quietly.
No, some are hiding under the table, and some are actively trying to insult the other guests.
So what do you do?
Well, the goal of IFS is not to murder your internal Smerdyakov or totally banish your inner Jason.
Because you can't.
Right, and if you try to violently destroy a manager, it will only fight back harder. The goal is to acknowledge them, understand their positive intent.
Positive intent.
Yeah.
Even for the toxic ones.
Yes, because even a toxic manager like Jason genuinely believes he is protecting you from being a victim.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
Right. So you have to bring them into dialogue. In IFS, there is a core self, the calm, compassionate center of your being.
Okay, the self.
The self needs to sit at the absolute head of the dinner table. It needs to patiently listen to the anxieties of the managers and actually comfort the deep pain of the exiles without letting any single one of them hijack the entire event.
And the framework takes this clinical concept and zooms out even further. It moves from modern clinical psychology all the way back to ancient mythology.
This is where it gets really epic.
It connects the psychological directly back to the mythic. Across the globe, in completely disconnected cultures, we see the exact same narrative pattern. Primordial beings who are physically broken apart.
Yes, it's a constant theme.
Gods dismembered, kingdoms violently divided, sacred bodies scattered across the world.
It is a completely universal human motif. Think of the Egyptian myth of Osiris.
Okay, remind me how that one goes.
Well, Osiris is a benevolent ruler who is tricked, murdered, and sealed in a coffin by its brother Set. And Set represents chaos and jealousy.
Classic sibling rivalry on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. But Set doesn't just kill Osiris. He hacks his body into 14 distinct pieces and scatters them across the entire world.
You really wanted him gone.
Right. And then it is up to Isis, Osiris's wife, to journey across the earth, find every single shattered piece, and meticulously reassemble him so he can finally become the lord of the underworld.
And there are other myths like this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look at Hindu mythology, where the primordial cosmic man, Purusha, is divided and literally sacrificed to create the universe. His mind becomes the moon, his eyes become the sun, his breath becomes the wind.
So why is this specific pattern of being hacked to pieces and scattered so universal? What is the underlying psychological truth it is trying to communicate to us?
The underlying intuition of these myths is that existence naturally begins in unity, but it absolutely must unfold through fragmentation.
Right, they break apart.
We do. We start whole, perhaps in the total innocence of early childhood or in some sort of metaphysical origin state. But to survive in a complex, very dangerous world, we have to specialize.
We have to adapt.
Right. We encounter trauma, we encounter immense social expectations, and so we fragment.
We break ourselves into pieces.
Yes. We develop a tough, deeply cynical part just to handle the bullies at school.
Or we develop a hyper-rational part to succeed in our cutthroat careers.
Exactly. We lock away our vulnerable, sensitive parts to avoid getting our hearts broken. The fragmentation is a totally necessary survival mechanism.
But, and this is the crux of the spiritual dimension, the story cannot end with the shattering.
No, it cannot.
The framework calls this the spiritual task of recollection. Recollection, collecting the pieces again, gathering together what has been forcibly separated.
Yes. The myth of Osiris isn't ultimately about the murder. It is about the reassembly.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Literature, clinical psychology, and ancient mythology are all aggressively pointing at the exact same truth here. We fragment to survive, but our ultimate life goal is integration.
Becoming whole again.
Right. The suffering we experience, the brutal internal wars that tear us apart, happen because the individual shards, the separate parts, mistake themselves for the whole.
Right. Dmitri thinks human life is only passion.
And Jason thinks reality is only ruthless survival.
And when a fragment seeks absolute sovereignty, it just becomes a tyrant.
It does. The profound spiritual task is constantly reminding these parts that they are merely members of a larger family, and they desperately, desperately need each other to actually function.
Which brings us to the final, most pressing question of this entire deep dive. Hope versus history.
The big showdown.
We know what the goal is now. The goal is wholeness. The goal is Isis gathering the scattered pieces of Osiris. But we really need to look at the final verdicts of our two novelists to see if wholeness is actually achievable in the real world.
That's the million-dollar question.
Because saying, just integrate your personality is super easy. Actually doing it is probably the hardest thing a human being can attempt. The central question is deeply spiritual. What does it actually mean to become whole?
And here's where Dostoyevsky and Faulkner diverge significantly in their ultimate visions.
Okay, let's start with Dostoyevsky.
Dostoyevsky, despite dragging us through the absolute darkest, most chaotic depths of the human psyche in the Brothers Karamazov, he ultimately offers cautious hope.
Cautious hope. I'll take it.
He suggests that real reconciliation is actually possible, and he specifically locates that possibility in the character of Alyosha.
The peacemaker.
Right. But how Alyosha functions is highly critical. He isn't just another loud voice screaming in the boardroom. He acts as a center of gravity.
The center of gravity. That is such a fascinating way to describe a psychological mechanism. It isn't a tyrant forcing everyone into line with a stick. It's a pull.
Exactly. Dostoevsky is suggesting that to integrate the fragmented self, you cannot just let reason and passion debate endlessly until one finally wins.
You can't argue your way into mental health.
No, you cannot logic your way into wholeness. You need a completely different kind of force. You need a spiritual center of gravity, characterized by deep love, active humility, and profound empathy, to basically exert a gravitational pull on the shards and hold them all in orbit.
So Alyosha doesn't try to destroy Ivan's intellect or suppress Dmitri's wild passion.
Not at all. He actively listens to them, he genuinely loves them, and his mere presence alone softens their worst extremes.
Wow.
Through that kind of active, highly empathetic core, Dostoevsky truly believes the fragmented self can discover real harmony.
So Dostoyevsky gives us a blueprint for hope.
He does.
But then we turn to Faulkner, and the prognosis is just incredibly bleak.
Oh, it is devastating.
The framework describes Faulkner's vision as one of bleak uncertainty. It posits that time, history, and memory basically exert a centrifugal force that pulls the self ever further apart.
Centrifugal force.
Right, the energy that throws things outward violently away from the center. If Dostoyevsky has a center of gravity gently pulling the family inward, Faulkner has a spinning centrifuge just throwing the parts into the void.
That's exactly it.
The Compson tragedy is profound because the parts literally never learn to coexist. The center cannot hold, and the family simply collapses into absolute ruin.
Faulkner envisions the immense pressures of trauma, history, and time as simply too great for the fragile human psyche to withstand.
The wounds are just too deep to heal.
Because they exiled Caddy, the life force, the unifying center of vitality, there is absolutely no gravity left in that family.
None at all.
The centrifugal force rips the remaining brothers away from each other, completely trapping them in their own isolated, hyperpathological bubbles.
Right. Benji is sent to an asylum. Quentin tragically commits suicide. And Jason is left totally alone, just a bitter, hollow man obsessing over stolen money.
The family house rots away, the entire bloodline ends, and the psyche disintegrates completely.
Okay, I have to step in here and push back a little.
Sure.
I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone listening to this right now. If Faulkner's vision is that doomed, that utterly devoid of hope, that completely broken, why on earth should we engage with it?
It's a fair question.
Like, I don't need to stare at a 300-page car crash to know I shouldn't crash my car, you know? Dostoyevsky gives me an actual path forward. Faulkner just gives me a map of total psychological annihilation.
Yeah, it's rough.
What is the actual tangible value in studying a mind that completely and utterly fails to integrate?
It's a totally valid frustration, but you really have to look at the power of negative space in art and psychology.
Negative space. Explain that.
The framework provides a brilliant defense of Faulkner right here. The tragedy of the Compsons is excruciating to witness, precisely because it so vividly reveals what is violently missing.
Okay, I'm cracking.
Faulkner's bleakness is not just empty nihilism. It is a massive flashing warning sign that actually highlights our desperate, innate longing for wholeness.
By showing us the absolute absence of it.
Right. By showing us the absolute catastrophic failure of a divided mind, by vividly dramatizing exactly what happens when deep resentment, obsessive memory, and raw sensation are allowed to operate completely without the integrating force of love and vitality, Faulkner proves how utterly essential integration actually is.
So by showing us the extreme fatal consequences of failure, he makes the necessity of the attempt undeniable.
Yes. Dostoyevsky shows us the cure. Faulkner shows us the horrific disease.
And human nature being what it is, sometimes understanding the sheer apocalyptic terror of the disease is the exact only thing that actually motivates us to do the grueling work of seeking the cure.
Exactly. Both authors, through completely different opposing methodologies, are powerfully pointing to the exact same necessity.
That within every single human being reside competing loyalties, rival interpretations, and deeply conflicting desires.
Passion will always argue with reason.
Memory will always contend with hope.
Faith will constantly be aggressively challenged by doubt.
And the fundamental truth here is that none of these voices can be simply eliminated. You literally cannot amputate a part of your soul just because it is temporarily inconvenient.
No, you can't.
The supreme challenge of being human is figuring out how to get these voices to coexist without burning the entire house down.
Exactly. The map they provided, the structural literary map of the soul's internal landscape, is still genuinely the most accurate guide we have for navigating the sheer complexities of our own minds.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most impactful realization of this entire exploration.
Let's hear it.
The enduring power of these massive classic novels lies in a very, very uncomfortable recognition. The Karamazovs and the Compsons are not merely fictional families trapped in dusty old books.
They're just characters.
They are us. We are the Karamazovs. We are the Compsons. Every single morning we wake up and we have to manage this wildly chaotic household.
It's a daily struggle.
We have to make sure our inner Ivan doesn't intellectually talk us out of finding real meaning in our lives. We have to ensure our inner Dmitri doesn't just burn our relationships down in a sudden fit of passion.
Right.
We have to actively, constantly fight to keep our inner Jason from alienating everyone we love through ridiculous paranoia. And we have to desperately, fiercely protect our inner Caddy, ensuring we never, ever exile our own capacity for true, lived joy.
It is the absolute work of a lifetime. And if the ultimate goal of the human mind is integration, we really have to ask ourselves a very difficult question.
What's the question?
What actually happens when one part of us finally wins and completely silences all the others? Because we spend so much time chasing the idea of absolute mental peace, right? We want our nagging doubts, our unruly passions, or our painful, complicated memories to just finally be quiet.
Oh, we just want to break from the noise.
We want to clear the boardroom completely and just be one simple, totally unbothered monarch. But if Dostoevsky and Faulkner are right, complete silence in the mind might not actually be peace at all.
What would it be?
It might just mean the family has died.
Wow.
The house is perfectly quiet only because it is entirely empty.
A quiet house might just be a dead house. That is, man, that really gives you something to think about.
It really does.
So the next time you feel totally conflicted, the next time you hear those contradictory voices arguing passionately in your head, maybe you shouldn't reach for a way to just shut them up.
Maybe not.
Maybe you shouldn't strive for the cold, dead silence of a tyrant monarch. Maybe instead, you should just pull up a chair, sit right at the head of the table, and genuinely listen to the family meeting.
Because a noisy house means people are actually still alive inside.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It has been an absolute privilege to explore the architecture of the mind with you today.
It was a real pleasure.
Until next time, keep listening to the family.